focusing on is the triangle. And has anybody ever played triangle before? Okay, a few of you played triangle before. It's a very fun instrument. And I think one of the difficulties of triangle is, and just like tambourine, but even more so in many cases, is selecting the right sound with the right color. The way I think about triangle playing is sometimes it's a rhythm, sometimes it's a color. In the earlier music, say like Beethoven or Rossini, it's much more of a rhythmic instrument. It's usually keeping the time. And that's because it's associated with the Janissary music of Turkey, of Greece. Okay, when Beethoven heard this instrument for the first time, he heard it in the context of the Turkish marching band. Later on, composers like Ravel and Debussy used the instrument much more as a color instrument. So for instance, we're playing Lemaire in a couple of weeks with the orchestra, and the triangle really is the crest of the waves. It's not really a rhythm instrument as it is in Beethoven and Rossini. It's much more of a coloristic instrument. The first example I'm going to be playing for you is from Beethoven Symphony No. 9, and I'll be playing in the fourth movement. This is after the percussionist hopefully not fallen asleep after 55 minutes of sitting there on stage. The first section is after the choir is already saying, "Oh, the joy, all the souls," the other thing. And the image that Beethoven wants is that of a Turkish marching band coming over a hill. And later on, at the end of the piece, it just brings the finale to a raucous conclusion. A little bit behind which triangle I'm selecting and why. I'm going to go with the triangle that you see here, which was designed by the former principal percussionist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, a man named Alan Abel. And the Abel triangle is great because it gives a very solid fundamental, meaning that it's a very pure tone, almost a pitch. Versus, say, a triangle that has a few more overtones, which is a little bit less of a pitch. Anyhow, this triangle doesn't really have this clear tone. You can't really sing the pitch nearly as well as you could with the other triangle. So that's one consideration. The other consideration is that if I strike in the dead center of the bar of the triangle, I'll get much more of its fundamental versus the corners. So just as an example, in the corner, get the fiddle. So hopefully you can hear that the corner produces a lot more overtones. So if I was playing something by, say, Ravel or Debussy, I probably would want to play a little bit closer to the corner. So I'm going to select this Abel triangle. I'm going to play right in the center of the bar. Because again, the triangle role in this particular case is that of a rhythm instrument. Okay, as long as I'm getting the right sound, it's not cheap. Next piece I'd like to do is the overture to Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. And most of you are familiar with this piece, correct? Okay. A lot of high colors in the orchestration. It's not very thick orchestration. So you don't need a triangle that's going to be overpowering. Say, this guy here, which I've affectionately named Thor, he's about 5 pounds. I wouldn't use him for the overture to the Nutcracker. I would probably use something a little bit smaller that's going to give me some of those brighter overtones. And the other thing I'd like to just point out very quickly is the printed music. Tchaikovsky only gives me mezzo forte, later on a crescendo. He doesn't give me any indications about what the phrasing is. And one of my jobs as a musician, if I'm going to play this part absolutely correctly, I need to phrase with the orchestra. So hopefully you hear that I do little peaks and valleys exactly with the orchestration. Those notes need just a little bit more weight, so it's a little bit different stroke type. The next selection is the 5th movement of rimsky-korsakov's Capriccio Espagnol with L'Andamio. And this is a very exciting part. I would never attempt to play this with just one triangle. It's too active. It's a very rhythmic part. However, it's so quick, I think it's much more interesting as a color. So I would actually err on the side of